Hey all. Um, this is my first attempt to doing this. I'm going to try to do it on Sundays. Sometimes it'll be all fun and happy and goofy, and sometimes it'll be, with the state of the world, depressing and fucked up. Um, this one is going to be a mix of both. I try to get the heavy over in the beginning so that I don't have to focus too much on it, and we can end on a lighter note. So I am going to jump in and go from there. Um, for those who have not been following politics or who have been trying to avoid it, like many of us have, in order to keep our mental health in a good place, just picking and choosing and trying to be selective. Um, but that leads to other problems, which is a separate posting, and we're just not going to do that right now. What I do want to talk about um, is something that I don't think, like, I've caught certain people who are progressive or, like, people who are definitely left leaning or certainly present that way. Um, I've heard them talk about it in bits and pieces. I've heard some late night hosts talk about it in bits and pieces. But I'm not hearing too many people talk about it the way you would think it was talked about. Let's back up for a second. Last month, I think, yeah, early last month, there was a period of time where Donald Trump uh, basically shut down a lot of medical insurance and school lunches and other things for a lot of different people. That was a day, and within a day, people were so outraged that um, he backpedaled. Great, and so a lot of people didn't even know, myself included, that I was without insurance for a day. Fortunately, none of my scripts had to be filled that day, and so it worked out. But now he has put RFK, Robert Kennedy Jr., um, in charge of human services, which health and human services, which is, I'm not even going to get into it. But the point is that the first thing that this man has done and intends to continue more of is to not cover uh, psych meds, specifically things like antidepressants or antipsychotics or anything like that that can manage a person's mental health. He is citing that this causes addictions and substance abuse problems, and also is connected to and tied to mass shootings, including school shootings. Technically, both of those things are true statements, but not for the reasons you think, and not for the reasons that he is trying to portray, which is that they cause these things. It is the lack of these things which studies have proven are the problem. People who go off their meds and don't have or have never been on medications and who deeply need them or have taken the wrong medications or the wrong dosage of medications or who abuse those medications in some way or neglected them entirely in other ways. These are the people more likely to go off on a shooting spree, whether that's in a public place, uh, 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 like an adult public place, or whether that's a school. It's the same. It's the same result. Not to mention, Republicans forever, since we've been talking about, gun control and sensible gun laws, have been screaming that guns are not the issue, it's mental health that's the issue. And at the same time, they want to take away the medications that keep people with mental health issues stable. They want to stop people taking antipsychotics. I and same thing with addiction. More often than not, people are addicted because they are self-medicating because they don't have the insurance, the money, the resources, or the diagnosis to get the medication that they need. And so they try to numb through their mental health pain with hallucinogens or uppers or downers or alcohol or what have you. Um, he's also suggesting that people might be better served by basically work camps, labor camps, as I think he wanted to call them, or facilities where people could go and work. People who are, struggling either with non diagnosed or newly diagnosed and unmedicated, or they're still trying to get their meds right for complex and nuanced diagnoses like bipolar disorder, anything in the schizoaffective disorder range, personality disorders, anything like that, chronic clinical depression. Um, Even people with something that is regarded as simple but is not, ADHD or ADD, these things aren't cured with work. In fact, in some cases, they can be exacerbated by undue pressure and financial pressure of feeling like you have to go to work when you know that you need to get some help first. Um, because these are the choices that people are left with. So, and a lot of people think, well, this doesn't really concern me. According to the statistics, yes, it does. I promise you, someone you know, someone you love, someone in your family, in your immediate social circle, you yourself, your partner, significant other, child, whatever you want to call it, someone in your life suffers from mental illness. That's just a statistical fact, and it's on the rise. Any of the peer-reviewed scientific journals will show you stats and statistics and data and studies that indicate all of these things have been on the rise. They're not getting better, they're getting worse. Possibly with the state of the world, possibly from hormones, possibly from who knows what. There's a whole plethora of reasons that someone could have: genetics, circumstance, environment, trauma, all kinds of reasons people can have problems. The point is that they exist, and not in small numbers, in droves. And think of the people maybe that you know who are on medications, and you've seen the difference from when they're on their meds and when they're not on their meds. What's going to happen to those people, and more specifically, if only enlightened self-interest is your shtick, to our society when these people do not have their meds? It's taken me probably 4 days, 5 days to calm down from hearing this before I could even articulate this much conversation, or articulation to even convey any of this, because it is extremely personal for me. I have a son. Actually, no. I have children who have mental health issues. I have uh, one in particular who is a bit more advanced than the average mental health issues. And while some of them are on meds, some of them aren't on meds, some of them are trying to figure out what meds to be on, um, and not just my children. I have other relatives and family members, many friends. I myself take medication daily that allows me to function. And a lot of people in my section of the country, which is the Northeast, feel pretty confident in their medical insurance, myself included. It's one of the reasons why I don't really want to leave my state because I like the health insurance that my state offers. However, many of those state-run insurances are covered by federal funding, and if they decide that's not covered anymore, that's not covered anymore. What are those people going to do? And while I understand that everyone has their opinion on the different sides of the political, I can't even call it a spectrum because we have two. Although individual people fall on the spectrum between the two. There are essentially two points. There's the right and the left, which is ridiculous to me, but that's what we've got to work with, this bi-party system that is broken on both fucking sides. Um, these are these are people who can disagree and often do, and that's all well and good and fine. But it's kind of like I think of sporting events. Like as children, we're taught to like go shake the other side's hand and say good game. Otherwise, it's considered unsportsmanlike conduct. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that there are people who are not even like, "Ha, your face is tight, you were wrong," because it's not that. We won't know until we get on to the other side of this shit show who was right and who was wrong. We won't be alive to see any of that. The history books, our grandchildren's grandchildren, what they learn about this period in time. That's what will determine right and wrong. All I'm talking about is the fact that there are people out there, and so far I've only seen it on the right. If you don't like that, if that offends you, I don't know what to say. Maybe consider what side you're standing on. I don't know what to say. Um, but I have not seen anyone yet on the left. Not that I've never seen, but in this particular presidency and everything that's going on right now, so far I have not seen anyone on the left enjoying the suffering of people on the right. That's what I think it is for a lot of people. Like, I know a lot of people, they like to quote, Benny Shaps and talk about how, facts don't care about your feelings. Well, that's nice, but people do, or they should. People are not machines. Um, and if you are happy that people aren't getting medication that will keep them grounded and keeps them from being a danger to themselves and others, there's something wrong with you. You can be upset about, the money being spent. You can talk to me about, taxes. You can have all of those opinions. But for you to delight in, for you to be like, ha ha ha, your grandma can't get her medication, or your child can't have his or her medication, or I don't care if so and so that you know and love commits suicide because they don't have their medication. There is something fundamentally wrong with you as a human being. And I'm just going to stand on that. Come at me. I don't care. You are not a good person. if that's something that you can do. Because that's not a disagreement. That's not having a different opinion. That's holding your fellow human man in total contempt. So there's that. From that, I was talking a little bit about copyright claims on. Let's see, we're getting less and less intense. Um, uh, on YouTube specifically, I have had a few, not horrible, not some shows are easier to post reactions to. Games are pretty cool because you don't have to worry about like a lot of editing or things like that. You're just putting up your stream, which is you, so there's not a copyright issue really, unless you're playing music or something funky in the background. But it is what it is, and you play the game, and awesome. So that's all well and good. But YouTube, as a platform, kind of automatically flags anything that is recognized as having existed from someone else. No problem with that. They're covering their ass. That makes sense to me. What frustrates me are, when they actually then get sent to whoever owns the IP, um, to look at your dispute claim if you dispute it, and decide whether or not they feel it warrants a strike or you're good. The problem I have, and I was discussing this with my husband, because I don't always understand the financial aspects of it. Like back in the day, although he says that he has seen research that says the opposite of what I'm about to say. Back in the day, I remember people in their teens buying bootleg copies of cassette tapes. People had gone to concerts or shows and recorded something illegally and then made copies of it and sold it off. I understand why that's a copyright issue. Ooh, pardon me. It's heat's on. It's really dry in the truck. So I get that. I do. That makes sense to me. Somebody worked hard to produce this music, and now someone else is making copies of it and selling it off, and they're making money off of their work and not giving them any credit or any cut or anything. That's fucked up. I get it. But again, my husband says that he looked around on the internet, and according to what he saw, um, it actually seemed to support the idea that when people engage in piracy or bootlegs, things like that, it tends to make sales go up. I don't know if I buy that, because if you have, like I said, a whole album or a whole, for those who remember albums or cassettes, um, there's no need for you to buy it. You have it in its entirety. That I get that. That makes sense. With games, it's a little different because you can watch me play a game, but which might make you want to play the game. But you watching me play the game isn't the same as you having the game, and so it might make you want to go buy it. But this is my problem with reactions. Reaction channels, particularly, are constantly harassed about copyrights, and most of them are very careful to make sure that only a portion of the video that they're showing is footage. And it's usually clipped. It's not like the entire episode in its entirety of whatever it is, whether it's an hour long or half an hour. It's usually snippets here and there as the person talks about what they thought of the episode or a particular scene or whatever. And so most people I know have discovered other shows through reaction channels. So, like, I found The Pit that way on Prime. I found The Penguin that way on Max. There have been a lot of shows that I stumbled upon watching someone else react to it. I've become obsessed with Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel, and that those were all from reactions. And my watching other people's reaction didn't cause me to not go and watch it. If anything, it made me want to watch it more. I wanted to know more about it. Um, it was Dr. Mike, shout out to Dr. Mike, who turned me on to The Pit, because he's always critiquing, or at least giving his feedback on medical shows. So the fact that he thought that The Pit was pretty realistic made me want to watch it. These are the kinds of things I'm talking about. And so I don't understand how these people don't seem to get in their heads that they're getting free advertisement for free. No cost to them. Their shit is being advertised, and it aggravates me. Anyways, that's just kind of a small pet peeve. Let's move on to the nicer stuff. Uh, if anyone pays any attention or is into Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop RPGs, TTRPGs as they are lovingly shorthandedly called, um, you will know certain names in the games. There are lots of what they call live action role playing shows on the internet now. Um, Probably two of the biggest that come to mind would be Dimension 20, hosted by Brennan Lee Mulligan, who is amazing, and the current live show RPG show that I can think of would be Critical Role. Um, they have everyone's favorite nerdy ass voice actors sitting around and playing Dungeons and Dragons. Although now they're playing other things besides just Dungeons and Dragons. They play systems that they or their associates have developed independently, like Candela Obscura, which, if you like Call of Cthulhu, I highly recommend. Or their newest one and their biggest, largest promoted one coming out is Daggerheart, which I would also highly recommend. But they're a lot of fun, and the show has gone through three campaigns. They just finished their third campaign, and right now they're going through periods of time in the lore of the world that they built. Matt Mercer as the DM of that show, and they've done like little mini series, little vignettes, if you will, that last like 2 or 3 to 4 or 5 sessions about points in Exandria's history um, that are referenced and are huge touchstones in the world, but the campaigns have not been specifically about those events, but everyone wanted to know about them. And Matthew Mercer tapped Brennan Lee Mulligan to come in and play his to DM these little mini series, and he did. He did it for Calamity, uh, which was kind of the start of the war between the gods. There's a lot of lore in regards to Exandria. Uh, there are places online that you can check it out, but if you know, you know. I'm not going to get into all of the explanation of Exandria. That would be its own video, which I may someday do. Um, but that was the beginning. The calamity was the beginning of the great war between the gods, and then there was downfall, which was kind of in the middle, and things weren't looking good. And now Brennan Lee Mulligan is back to do Divergence, which is kind of the very end of the war and what happens to humanity after the war, or sentience, the sentient races of Exandria after the war. And so, Brennan is back. Matthew Mercer actually gets to play this time, which is nice. Um, he's playing with another uh, Critical Role alum, uh, regular from the cast, Liam O'Brien. And it's really really good. If you, I mean, you could certainly watch it of its own, But if the show is something that you enjoy or something that you're interested in, I would definitely go back and watch them. They are a lot. I'm not. They can. Critical Role can be very intimidating for anyone to think about getting into because the average gaming session is 3 hours. Some of them have gone a lot longer than that, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of material to go over. But they do have abridged versions, and you can kind of get a synopsis if you want to get caught up. Or maybe I'll do a video about that someday. Who knows? You can also watch them on The Legend of Vox Machina, which is the animated series based on their first campaign, and there's a new one coming out based on their second campaign. So we'll see what happens going forward, but it is an incredible show. It is this particular one started last week, and actually I think went on tonight. It's Thursday as I record this, but yeah, it's amazing. They're amazing. Brennan is amazing. It's funny to me because I was just telling Geek earlier today that Brennan is a big goofball in many ways, and funny and irreverent. And if you watch his games on Dimension 20, you'll see that. He's a big kid, and he has a lot of fun with his friends, and it's amazing. But for some reason, every time he comes over to Critical Role, he becomes like the Duke of Depression, the Archmage of Deconstruction. He is just brutal. They get him for the grimmest, grittiest, darkest shit, and he's mwah, so good at it. And he also played in an episode in a series that they did for Candela Obscura, in which he also, again, was the darkest thing on the screen, which is impressive given the shit that they work with. So there's that. And then to close out, this video was a little longer than I usually do. I usually try to keep it to 20 minutes or less, but that first topic really got me going. And last but not least, I've started streaming The Walking Dead on Thursday nights, but I've been thinking about a new game that recently came out. I'm usually so late to the party when it comes to playing any game, so the fact that I might actually be on top of one is exciting. Um, and so somewhere I still won't be really on top of it because it will be by the time I get through the two games that I'm playing, it'll be a little bit. But I want to play Avowed. Avowed is based on the Deadfire or Deadfire, Dead Pillar, Pillars of Eternity, Deadfire. That's what I'm thinking of. World. It's based in that world, and in that mythos and that mythology of that world, and so it looks fun. I made a character and I started the opening and I went, nope, I'm gonna stop because I want to play through something blind for everybody, and I can't promise I'm gonna be good at it, but it should be a lot of fun, and I'm interested to find out if it really is hype or just hoopla. There's been a lot of people saying it's awesome, it's amazing. Other people have been like, it sucks, I wouldn't bother. Um, but I tend not to listen to uh, reviews. I try to give something a shot and see how I feel about it. Let me know how you feel about it. Is it something that you want? Is Avowed a game that you want to play? Is it a game you want to see me play? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all those cool things that social media lets you do. Don't forget to follow us on Twitch, um, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok. I think those are all the places that we are. And tune in on Sundays to see a new episode of What's News. Bye, guys.